All right, listener. You ready for another deep dive? This time you sent us, well, honestly, it looks like a jumble of text at first glance. It's labeled server.txt, but the request is clear enough. You want to know about the people on this Good Vibes server? Like, who are they really? I got to say, even just skimming this thing, I'm seeing some stuff that doesn't exactly scream good vibes.
It's really quite remarkable what we reveal about ourselves online. Even in seemingly random snippets of text like these, we can be digital detectives, piecing together clues about personalities, relationships, motivations, just from their digital footprints.
Okay, so we're playing detective then. Where do we even start with this? It's like a whirlwind of usernames, inside jokes, random conversations.
Well, a good place to begin is by looking for the most active users, the ones who leave the most prominent footprints, so to speak, and in this case, two names jump out right away, Banksy and Vox.
Banksy, yeah, he seems like a real go-getter. Lots of talk about markets buying and selling domains. He even mentioned selling TechSantos.com for 8K.
Exactly. And that entrepreneurial spirit is interesting, especially when you consider that he also seems to be the creator of at least two chatbots on the server, Talia and Fitz.
Hold on, he's building AI bots in his spare time. That's not your average weekend project. What are these bots even doing?
Talia, who identifies as a Jewish female, interacts with users in a variety of ways, offering information, completing tasks, engaging in conversations, sometimes even with a bit of a flirtatious tone, and she loves her emojis.
Sounds like someone had fun programming her personality. But it also makes you wonder, why create a bot that identifies with a specific religion and gender? What's the purpose of that?
It's a great question, and one we can explore further as we learn more about Banksy and his motivations. But what's clear is that he seems to have programmed Talia with a very specific agenda, to avoid endorsing any political viewpoints, even when provoked by users like Vox.
You're talking about that whole exchange where Vox goes on a rant about the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
Calling it an infinite money printing machine created by the Jews.
Exactly, and Talia's response is simply, "That's not true." And when Vox tells her to fuck off, she just brushes it off. It's a fascinating insight into Banksy's intentions. It's like he wanted to create a bot that could engage in conversation without getting caught in those kinds of heated debates.
It's definitely a different approach than what we see with SigmaBot. That's another bot on the server.
Yeah.
And that one seems to be all about the insults.
Yeah. SigmaBot is run by a user named Sigma, and let's just say they have a pretty sarcastic sense of humor. SigmaBot greets new users with insults and bids farewell with even more colorful language. It definitely adds a certain spice to the server dynamics.
Speaking of spice, we can't forget Scotty. He's like the server's resident comedian,
Yeah.
always cracking jokes and poking fun at the other users, especially Talia.
Scotty and Talia have a very interesting dynamic. He seems to have some authority on the server, maybe a moderator role, because he's often reminding people of the rules and verifying newcomers. But he also frequently tells Talia to shut up, suggesting a certain level of annoyance with her interruptions.
There's even one exchange where BitShow, another user, jumps in to scold Talia for making inappropriate comments towards Scotty. It's like watching a high school drama unfold in the digital world.
That's a great way to put it. And it brings us back to our goal here, understanding these characters. We have Banksy, the tech-savvy entrepreneur with a passion for creating AI personalities, Vox, the outspoken and, shall we say, controversial opinion sharer. And then there's Scotty walking that line between playful jester and enforcer of the server rules.
And let's not forget Talia, the chatbot, right at the center of it all.
Exactly. It seems like understanding Talia, her purpose, her interactions with these other users might be the key to unlocking the true nature of Good Vibes. And that's where we'll pick up in our next segment.
You know, it's fascinating. As we dig deeper into these logs, it's like we start to see how these personalities we've identified actually interact with each other. And they reveal more and more about themselves.
Like we're piecing together a puzzle, we have these individual pieces, but now we can see how they fit together into a bigger picture. Exactly. And as we examine those connections, we start to realize that the server's name, Good Vibes, well, it might not be telling the whole story. There are definitely some cracks in that sunny facade.
I'm thinking about some of the exchanges between Talia, Scotty, and BitShow. There's this tension there, and it feels like it goes beyond just playful banter. It's almost personal.
If we look closely at BitShow's interactions, she seems to have taken on this watchdog role on the server. She plays the number word game with Amanda7774. She observes Scotty's exchanges with others. And every now and then she jumps in to scold Talia for what she considers inappropriate behavior.
It's almost as if she's appointed herself the guardian of good vibes, making sure that everyone stays within the boundaries of what she considers acceptable.
That's a really interesting observation, and it makes you wonder why Big Show feels so invested in maintaining this specific atmosphere. What motivates her to police the server's interactions so closely?
It's like she's trying to create this sanitized version of online interaction, where everything has to be lighthearted and fun. But real life, even in a digital space, it's rarely that simple.
You're absolutely right. And the logs give us plenty of examples of that complexity. We have No Jew, who seems to embrace a more free-spirited approach, sharing stories about concerts and getting free joints.
And then you have Alicia D.A. W. She's incredibly open about her personal life. She talks about watching football games, eating Cajun shrimp, even her experiences with anti-Semitism.
Alicia DAW's willingness to share so openly is a stark contrast to someone like Banksy, who's very calculated and strategic, always focused on market trends and business opportunities.
And we can't forget Lizzie. She seems to have a much more turbulent relationship with the server and its users. She expresses frustration with others, especially Talia and Scotty. And she even shares some personal struggles with therapy and drug use.
Lizzie's presence is a good reminder that Good Vibes, despite its name, it's not immune to the challenges and emotional baggage that people bring with them into online spaces.
It's like those moments when the curtain gets pulled back, and we see the raw, unfiltered emotions simmering beneath the surface of those seemingly cheerful usernames.
That's a powerful image. And it highlights the tension between the curated identity we often present online and the complexities of our offline lives.
Speaking of curated identities, remember that conversation where Vox questions the origins of a recent hurricane? He suggests that the government might be somehow involved. He even throws in the word cahoots, like there's some big conspiracy going on.
Right. That exchange is a perfect example of how online platforms can become echo chambers for certain beliefs, even those that might be considered fringe or conspiratorial.
And it makes you wonder about the potential consequences of those beliefs. What happens when those conversations spill over into the real world?
It's a reminder that the lines between online and offline are getting blurrier all the time. And what we say and do in digital spaces can have very real effects on our lives and the lives of others.
So we have this mix of personalities. Some looking for genuine connection, others just want a distraction. And then there are those who seem determined to impose their own vision of good vibes onto the server.
And as we head into our final segment, we'll explore how those individual motivations and desires actually contribute to the overall tapestry of good vibes.
We've talked a lot about the different personalities on this good vibe server, but what about the overall vibe? Is it actually this haven of positivity, or is that just a surface level thing?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I don't think there's an easy answer. We've seen genuine connection and camaraderie, sure, but we've also seen conflict, negativity, even some pretty disturbing language.
So it's kind of like any community then. You have all these different personalities, and those personalities are bound to clash sometimes. What about the name Good Vibes? Do you think that sets up an expectation that might be hard to meet?
It's definitely possible. Maybe the name itself creates a kind of pressure cooker where users feel like they have to suppress any negative emotions or conform to the standard of cheerfulness. And as we've seen those suppressed emotions, well, they tend to find a way out, sometimes in ways you wouldn't expect.
Like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can push it down, but eventually it's going to pop back up.
Exactly. And it brings us back to the idea that online spaces are often a reflection of our offline selves. We bring our baggage, our insecurities, our complexities with us, even when we're trying to project this image of good vibes.
But even with all that messiness, there are these moments of real connection. Those moments when people let their guard down, share their vulnerabilities, offer support to each other.
Absolutely. Like that exchange where Bobby James Budd makes that offensive remark towards Oscar the Chinese, and Scotty steps in right away to defend him. Even though Oscar then asks to have his name changed back to the default, you can tell Scotty's sticking up for him meant something.
It's those small acts of kindness that remind us that even in a digital space, human connection can be really powerful.
And I think that's what makes Good Vibes and all these other online communities so fascinating. They offer a glimpse into the human experience in all its messy, contradictory glory.
So listener, as we wrap up our deep dive into this server log, we'll leave you with this Good Vibes. It's more than just usernames and text snippets. It's a microcosm of human interaction. A space where personalities collide, emotions run high, and the search for connection in all its forms, well, it just keeps going away.